What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL video. And I know Seahawks fans are pumped to see Jamal Adams now on their roster on the Seattle Seahawks going into the 2020 season. So that means it's time to update the Seahawks record and let you know if I feel that Jamal Adams impacts this team in terms of wins and losses, going game by game, giving you my record prediction, similarly to how I updated the Patriots when they got Cam Newton. A big move, a big trade like Jamal Adams is going to make me rethink the prospects of the Seahawks in 2020. Before I give you my record prediction for the Seattle Seahawks in 2020, make sure that you do Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL vids just like this, and comment below your opinion on the Seahawks record. Do you think the Seahawks will be good enough this year to reclaim the NFC West and win the NFC West? What do you think their record will be? 10-6, 11-5, 12-4, 13-3, undefeated? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's take a look at this schedule and let's go game by game and predict the Seahawks 2020. Okay, so the Seahawks, I think this is a decent schedule for them this year. I don't see it as like an overly difficult schedule, something that I think is going to hurt them. I feel like there are some tough games here and there. Going to Philadelphia is difficult. Playing San Francisco twice. I think their own division with Arizona on the rise, that's a difficult matchup for them. The Rams always seem to give them a good game. And of course, you do play the Patriots, Dallas, Minnesota, Buffalo, teams that are near the playoff race or playoff teams from a year ago. So there are some good games, but I don't think it's one of the more difficult schedules in the league. Let's start off week 1. Seattle goes to Atlanta in a game facing their old defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, as the head coach. Matt Ryan versus Russell Wilson. This game, I believe, was the 2016 divisional round matchup. Atlanta ended up going to the Super Bowl that year, kind of dominating that game. I believe this time around, well, it could be an interesting game. Both teams play similar defensive schemes. Of course, the coaches kind of know each other well, so I do think it will be close in that regard. Julio Jones gives the Seahawks a lot to deal with, same as Calvin Ridley. The new secondary is definitely going to be under a test in game 1, but I have Seattle winning. I just think they're the better team. I think they're the better coach team. I think they'll be better off week 1. And I do think Russell Wilson in a duel versus Matt Ryan will have the last laugh and win that game. Week number 2. So this is a game that I've swayed back and forth with. I can see either team winning, and you can make a good argument for either team winning. I think these next 2 weeks here, week 2, week 3, these are the weeks where you're going to see the biggest immediate impact from Jamal Adams. It won't necessarily be versus Atlanta, but in week 2 and 3, that's where you're going to see Jamal Adams leap off the screen. First reason is New England is going to be a different kind of offense this year, and it is all going to be about Cam Newton and what he does well. Part of what Cam Newton does well is running the football off the read option, triple option, and getting creative in that regard. Now, New England could throw Seattle off with some things they've never seen from a New England scheme before. McDaniels has had success versus these Seahawk-type defenses in the past. I do think that this game will be very close. New England's secondary versus Seattle's receivers is a fascinating matchup. But I do think now with Jamal Adams, that extra player at strong safety who can come up into the box and make a play on Cam Newton in the running game and make a play on Sony Michel, James White, and that rushing attack from under center is a big deal. Plus, Jamal Adams has experience playing New England plenty. So I have Seattle winning that game at home, although I don't know if there's going to be fans, so it doesn't really matter. Week 3, Dallas, Seattle. This is another game that I think is going to be very highly contested. I think it's another game where you're going to see Jamal Adams play a big role. Last year, Jamal Adams, one of his big moments was that key 4th down stop in the red zone versus the Cowboys, hitting Dak Prescott on 4th down, coming on the blitz. I think Jamal Adams will have a similar impact, although he'll be more important versus the rushing attack of Ezekiel Elliott when it comes to defending them with light boxes. I think having Bobby Wagner, having Jamal Adams on the field will allow the Seahawks to somewhat match up better with Dallas's receivers. So I don't think they're going to get as torched as they would have without an Adams on the field. On the flip side, Dallas has just so many playmakers. Now, I think the key here is how effectively can Dallas stifle Russell Wilson? How can they get after Russell Wilson? I do think Dallas's offense is just slightly more difficult to defend than Seattle's. So I'm going to say Dallas wins the game. I think either one of these, week 2 or week 3, Seattle will lose one of these games. I'm not sure which one. I'm leaning Dallas right now, but I think they'll lose one of these games. Week 4, they play in Miami, which is always difficult. Trust me, I know, especially early in the season when it's going to be pretty warm there in Miami. So that's always a difficult trip, especially across the country. That's going to be challenging. Brian Flores is a good defensive coach. Don't sleep on that Miami defense, but I just don't think Miami has the offense to attack Seattle. I think Seattle wins that game. Week 5, Minnesota. This is a game that's been, I think they've played like 2 of the last 3 years or something to that degree. They played last season, I believe, on prime time. This game, I think, is going to be another defensive game, but I think the big key here is Minnesota's lack of corners, especially early in the season. That's going to hurt them to defend Metcalf and Lockett and Russell Wilson, so I have Seattle winning. They go on the bye week 4-1, pretty good. Week 7, they go to Arizona. I think this is a game where they could win, they could lose. It's a sway game to me. I think Arizona is basically a mirror image of Seattle. I think Arizona probably has a more efficient, effective offense, but defensively, I do believe now with Adams, Seattle is stronger. I'm going to say that Seattle wins because they're coming off the bye week, and I think that is big. Then week 8, they play San Francisco the first time. Remember, Seattle won the first game versus San Francisco last year. It was a great game too. I think they'll win that game as well. I think coming off the bye week, they beat Arizona, they beat San Fran. Now, it will be interesting, though. I could easily see them losing that game and maybe losing one to Arizona or to San Francisco. Either way, they could lose. Week 9, they travel to Buffalo. This is another cross-country trip. Buffalo is a team that I think is very well built to defend Seattle from an offense to defense perspective. McDermott's a great coach. I think Josh Allen and what they can give you in terms of their versatility offensively. You have to cover Diggs, you have to cover Beasley, you have to cover John Brown, but Allen can also run himself. Devin Singletary is a difficult matchup. I think Buffalo is probably just the better roster, so I think they're going to win at home when Seattle has to cross country, plus, Arizona, San Francisco, 2 games in a row, and then you play Buffalo. It's going to be a physical grind those 3 weeks. Then they play the Rams. I think this is where the Seahawks start to slide a little bit. I do think that the Rams will beat them once this year. I don't think the Rams are a great team this year, but they always seem to give Seattle a tough time every year because of McVay's offense and what he can do creatively. So I do think the Rams will find a way with Aaron Donald to win one of these games. Then in week 11, I do think, again, Arizona will win. I think they're going to split with basically their entire division. I think Arizona will beat them once, so whether it's in week 7, week 11, it doesn't really matter too much. I just think I'm giving the edge to Seattle week 7 because that is, of course, after the bye. Week 11 is not. Maybe we have a Seattle part of this schedule where maybe they go through some bumps and bruises. They're not the deepest team defensively. That could very well happen. Week 12, I have Seattle beating Philadelphia on Monday Night Football. Right now, I think that's a close one. I think the Eagles could easily win that, especially in Philadelphia. But we saw last year, Seattle beat Philadelphia twice last year. This is a sway game, could go either way. I don't know. It's tough, definitely. I think the Eagles are strong on their defensive line. They got better in the secondary. They're strong on their offensive line. But I think Seattle, if you're just looking at big play capability, I think Seattle is probably better in that regard. Week 13, the Giants and the Seahawks. While I think the Giants are an intriguing team, I think they'll be fun to watch. I don't think they're on the Seahawks level. The Jets, the Jamal Adams revenge game. I'm going with Seattle. It's as simple as that. Just the Jets, especially without Adams, just not a very talented roster. Week 15, Washington in Washington, the Washington football team, I think they have a very strong front seven. I think this game will be closer than people think because of that point, because Seattle, their weakness is on the offensive line. But Haskins versus Russell, I mean, come on. Week 16, the Rams at the Seahawks. The Seahawks get their revenge in Week 16. And then in Week 17, they play in San Francisco, possibly for the division. I have the 49ers winning that game in San Francisco. Tough place to play, man. Tough place to play. So I ultimately have the Seahawks winning 11 games, going 11-5. I had them at 10-6, I believe, before. I've kind of swayed between 11-5 and 10-6. I think more recently I had them at 10-6. I was at the point where I was thinking, Seattle's probably at the under, probably the 6 or the 7 wild card-ish team in the NFC. And now they get Jamal Adams. I think they jump back into the top 5 teams in the NFC. So maybe it doesn't show as much in the win and loss column, but I do think it will show when it comes to actually being a legitimate threat to getting to the Super Bowl in the NFC. And I will add 1 win to their total. So I have the Seahawks 11-5 now with Jamal Adams. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What do you think with Jamal Adams? What is the ceiling for this team? Can they win the Super Bowl? Do you think they're a competitor in the NFC? What do you think their record will be in 2020? It's Mitch of The Bottom Line View. Thanks for watching once again. Peace.